Shanti. First of all, who feels especially touched by today's Murli? Yeah? What especially touched you then? What was it that moved you? We need a mic. Do you remember being there, Gayatri Ben? Get the mic. It'd be great to have your insights on this today's Murli, since you were there. There's also a group of guests who weren't even Brahmins had met Bapdada, so they were sort of still milling around, or the week before. They were dumbfounded. Maybe you could tell a little bit about that group that we took in front of Bapdada as well, because it gives a bit of context to these last couple of Murlis.
I'm not sure if you were there, Ken, but I'm sure in my heart you were there, because there's no way you couldn't have been there.
I was there.
You were there, okay, with Charlie was there. You saw him on the video. So Manda sent that video this morning of the Murli, and I was looking at it before coming to class. And when it came to asking us, the double foreigners, he was actually pointing us out and saying, well, are you going to do this? How long are you going to do this? And I think it was a double foreigner who said 98%. And so he says, may you have gulab jamun in your mouth. But then he was also telling us that we should have a meeting to talk about it. And this is my curiosity. I thought you would have remembered. Did we have the meeting? And what did we come up with? Maybe we should ask Charlie that too, because he was there. Wadi was there. We were all there. Denise was there as well. And then Baba asked for the 30-year-old, and Shiluben was translating, and she started calling out names. You know, this one is 30 and that one is 30. And I was feeling a little bit elated, because of what happened last night, and then he celebrated with us our 30 years. So that was very significant. But I don't know if we did it or if Daddy Janki took us through it, but this whole idea of the depth of the description of what it means to become perfect. And, you know, when people say perfection, they usually put a deity and decorate the deity, and then we look at the deity and we could never relate to the deity because it's a Copper Age deity. And perfection is seen through the symbols of deities. However, today he made it quite clear that perfection is to have all the virtues and powers. And so that struck me now, but I seem to remember Daddy Janki was drilling it into our heads in the RC meetings, because when we would have our meetings and we would be caught up in numbers and letters and figures and logistics and functioning, she would walk in and the entire atmosphere would change by just her coming in, and she would just say, let me listen to you. And she would let us continue talking. And then the moment I think at that time, she would be changing the atmosphere in that room that we were sitting with, the vibrations of her power and virtues, of her perfection, of her completion. And then when she spoke, she just didn't speak and took us to this above what we were saying, but she would ask us all to share something. And I think in so doing, she was invoking within us an expression of our power and our virtues. And when we did that, then of course the atmosphere built with the collective power and virtues. And so when she spoke to us, we were ready to receive the shift from the atmosphere of function, logistics, and all of that to this other dimension of what my favorite term, deep meaning. And I love your definition of dharma, not just a principle-based sanskara, but actually a duty. And people don't like the word duty, but yet if you see duty as dharma, it means something completely different. It is absolutely an expression of your perfection, which means your virtue and your power. And perfection is not an ultimate thing. Perfection is a poetic act. It's an expression of your virtues and your powers. So that struck me very deeply in the Murli. And 2005, we could put as many V's as we want in our, in front of our names, but was it the call of the time or was it something else? It must have been, for us, the call of the time in which we were collectively bringing guests. And I remember a lot of Brazilians used to come at that time. And so you must have been part of that, and that's what Baba was talking about. But I know he used to meet these call of the time guests also in groups, and then he would give them titles like the Swan Group, or they would adopt the title based on what he would say to them. So yes, Baba was very kind of clear in this Murli at so many levels. But the other thing that struck me in the Murli was, he says, just become the example of what it means to be a Brahmin and what it means to be angelic. That's all you need to do. You don't need to create followers, as it were, but you just need to be inspired, an image that inspires, and let that be so natural. So natural soul consciousness, yes, it's all of these things together. That the Murli is one that if we study it, as you say, natural soul consciousness will be our nature. And the connection between nature and natural is also very interesting. So that's it for me. We were all there. We were cheering Baba on. We were his cheerleaders.
Right. You were talking about Daddy. Of course, when Baba talks about natural soul consciousness, images that come to mind are Daddies. They were naturally that because it became part of their DNA, you could say, that they would operate like that. And at a different level. And it's true, Gayatri was saying that often our meetings are very much policy and how to organize something and numbers. But of course there's a loving sharing also in those RC meetings. But one of the last times, maybe 2 years before, or 3 years before Daddy left the body, Daddy Janki, and she was always in the meetings, from beginning to end mostly. And then from time to time, Daddy, in the days of Daddy Prakash Mani, she would pop in and work out what's going on, and Daddy Gulzar also. But I was remembering one of the last meetings that we have with Daddy Janki present, one of the last seasons maybe. And Daddy, she always wanted us to share what sort of things, how do we understand something, what's our spiritual effort. And she asked something about how do you, somebody, or she asked it, or someone asked it, how do you sort out problems between two souls? A conflict, for example. Like Baba today was talking about, you're there with your good wishes and pure feelings for yourself and for the other, nothing changes, the person's such a stone-headed, doesn't change, or all your power is not enough. But then Baba says, don't become disheartened with yourself. That will show that that person's more powerful than you, or their situation is more powerful than you are. But after everyone shared a little bit, Daddy called us one by one and Genti Ben and Maini Didi and everyone who was in the room, even the brothers, Neville and Charlie and me and Mike. I don't know if Mike was there, but Lechu, Sudha Ben and Gayatri Ben, Maureen Ben and so on, all of us in that group. And she gave a long loving drishti and a big hug. Do you remember that? It's like half an hour in silence, Daddy giving drishti and hugging each one of us, even the brothers. We sort of, and she said at the end of it, that's the way you sort out things. Daddy Janky. And that was powerful. What a scene. That's eternally impressed in our sanskars. That. So someone who's naturally loving and naturally wise and naturally peaceful, naturally blissful, without thinking about, without making effort to be that, that's what natural soul consciousness is. It's the expression of our original qualities without thinking about it. That you can sort things out at a higher level. That you don't need to think about it or even talk about something to sort it out. Just the vibration, raise things to a higher level in your own mind. And what's the spiritual imperative that will solve all of this? You know, I've never been very happy with the word, remember me alone and your sins will be absolved. It's absolutionist sort of something they use in Christianity, that your sins are forgiven, sort of thing. And Baba doesn't forgive the sins, it's got nothing to do with forgiving. But there is a deeper meaning. Absolving means to loosen also. So then I became happy with the translation. We have to loosen the hold that our sinful past has on us. So at the same time I'm raising my consciousness to that natural level and that natural expression that we see in the Daddies. When I say, I even use the word see because I still see it. It's not I saw it, no, that was past, but I see it. We can see it still. We can see those scenes still. That natural expression of highest level of love and highest level of understanding of any situation. There is a high reason for everything. The fact is that everything that happens is eternal. That's the highest reason for anything. Even the worst things that happen are eternal. Right? It's part of a bigger story, and it's perfect. Drama is perfect, doesn't mean that it's good. It's accurate. Accurate and perfect, but, you know, all of the death that's happening in Gaza and other places, you can't say that it's good, but it's accurate. If we could see the whole picture, then we would understand. In fact, that there's a whole picture. Everything that happens is superimposed on a bigger picture. And the fact is that we forget the bigger picture and we start to look at the latest version of it, and it's dismaying, or it's disappointing, or it's enlivening, or creating enthusiasm, but in fact the big picture's okay. The big picture is absolutely accurate. The little picture may not be. And it's the little pictures that grab onto our sanskars and hold on to them. So if I want to absolve, really, I mean to loosen the hold that things have on me. So this spiritual imperative is always there. The eternal, the voice of the eternal is always calling out, look, see me, recognize me, I'm here. This is perfectly accurate. And then we forget that and get lost in the words or the thoughts or who said what or what happened when. And the daddies never got, they probably did when they were younger in Gyan. And I must have been, they needed 14 years to sort out lots of stuff, right? But later on, they were beyond being caught up. So being an angel, for me, is to be beyond being caught. I'm uncatchable. Nothing can hold me, nothing can grab me, nothing can hold me down or pull me back. So this idea of going beyond is a fascinating idea. Yeah? Come up here, Gayatri. It's probably we can have a chit-chat.
Again, last night I think Judy sent me, and Judy's not here, but she sent me a recording of a class from Daddy G. And it wasn't so much the Hindi we were listening to as it was the translator, the English, Shiluben's voice. And she's addressing exactly what you're saying, and it would be good for, I'll send it to you, to listen to it. And she was talking about being in the 14 years of the tapasya. But she was saying they didn't make effort. She says everything they did was very natural to them. And I'm saying, well, I'm just coming from Hyderabad, where, and then of course the 14 years most probably happened in Karachi. I could just imagine, as you said, the scene just came in front of me of what they had to face during the years. Some of the years were turbulent and some of the years were kind of peaceful. But what she said, that their love, coming back to Eric's class and Sister Mohini's reaffirming this thing called love, this powerful virtue and power called love, that their love was so complete and absolute that nothing on earth, these were the words used, nothing on earth could have shaken them.
Yeah.
And I then thought, as you were speaking, that when there is this true love as a principle, as a dharma, then my duty becomes such that nothing can shake me from fulfilling that duty. And so I just wanted to bring this element. She says they didn't feel they were making effort. Remembrance was so natural to them. The way of responding to the crisis from their own people, their own relatives, from the government, from the community, it was just like nothing for them. They just saw it, as you say, as a spiritual landscape of something bigger, and they were in that moment, and they were showing up in their best, with their best selves, and their authentic self is their best self. So I just want, maybe there's something in that for us at this time, in which we get so bent out of shape by the things that we're seeing in the world outside, that we could lose sight or lose the feeling of that absolute love that Baba is feeding us with.
But as you were speaking, Gayatri Ben, I was imagining, I mean, what probably was there, as you describe it, we're almost there, right? All of us were imagining. But Baba must have set up such a container for the experience that other experiences were not relevant. And that is the deep meaning of Vairagya, actually. Vairagya does not mean disinterest. That's a horrible translation. Vairagya means that you have something that is so important and so attractive, so meaningful, that everything else loses meaning. Everything else has no taste. So you've got something so tasty that everything else is insipid. You know, and that's what Vairagya really is. That I've got it, you know, so nothing else interests me. And it's not that because I'm not got my nose in the air, I'm a yogi and that's it. It's not natural for people to be in, if it's in the sort of space cadet type of silence, the person's got that strange look in his eyes, or one eye is going one way and the other eye is going the other way. I'm in silence. No, I'm naturally quiet.
Om Shanti. I had the same thought though, but during that time of tapasya, introversion, they were isolated. We are not isolated. We are all on the field of service, doing things. And so we have to master both of these, merge these together, especially here at Peace Village. We're not done. We're still preparing the candles, the sound, the reception. It's this thing that we have.
According to the history, and according to what we saw, they were not isolated. That was a time.
Yeah, there's a camera. Yeah, people are hearing the voice but not seeing the face. You're right.
But it's all right.
So I said, come up here. The birthday girl.
I'm just doing it, birthday girl. I'm just doing it because Sister Mohini is going to be here. But it's interesting that we would have thought that they were in isolation. But they were not in isolation. They were facing the situations.
The court cases going on.
And there were court cases going on. And they had to cultivate their own, where's Susan? Their own greenhouse, their own garden, where they were planting things to feed themselves. So Baba kept them active. They were also going to Clifton Beach, a dome that you saw them with. Then at that time also, it was the beginnings of the independence of India. I mean, even though that was happening later, but remember, they didn't move to India until 1950. So from 1936 to 1950, that was where everything happened. There was no isolation from them. The only isolation is what Brother Ken just said. Baba created a container that was subtle. And he taught them how to detach at this level. Because everything was around them. They were in the community. They were in the province of Sindh. That's got Muslim and Hindu Sindhis. There were 14 court orders against the Om Mandali. Mama and some of the seniors were dealing with it. And then there was one point in which Baba went to Kashmir and Calcutta. And Mama was left. And she was then, at that time, the organization actually grew to 500 when she was left. So it was a very, very challenging time. Tense, stressed. And that is why the Daddies are like that, because they became stable and unshakable, not by being taken away from the situation, but they had to be in that situation. And they were all so young. They were all young. No, Sindh it's got both. before they left Hyderabad to Karachi, but then he came back, and that was when his uncle died, and that affected him. That was the point in which he changed.
Big test.
A big test for him, and that was when he gave up everything, but then he reinvested it in Karachi. 77,000 rupees Baba spent on building Om Nivas. And it's it must have been a gorgeous building because it really moves you when you see it. And then when he separated from his partner, I wish Judy was here because she really has this history. And then he moved to Karachi, and then he invested in his own home, which was Golistan. It's still there. It's the Republic of Congo, their consulate. A beautiful place. And then, of course, Kunj Bhavan, which is now a school, but the tiles, you could see it's the same tiles. And then the garden space, which is now a parking lot for the military. And so all of this you still see. And then, of course, Baby Bhavan, which is another isolated place. So all of these places Baba invested in. And they were all within walking distance. So from Kunj Bhavan, you could walk to Golistan, his place. And you remember the story of when he took Daddy Gulzar because she was quiet and she went to Golistan to stay with the family. And then, but each place was amazing. It was so royal. It wasn't that he got a very royal place for himself, but Kunj Bhavan wasn't, because Kunj Bhavan is also very, very royal. And so I feel that sometimes we lose sight of the history. It's like a hidden history that you suddenly get exposed to when I visited. I just realized what happened. When you saw the court, you saw these lanes that you're walking through, you're looking for Jasoda Bhavan is now dilapidated.
Did you feel that you'd been there?
I don't know if I felt I was there, but what I felt, it was something moved me so deeply that it was as if I plateaued onto another level. It was as though I left the skin of the snake behind, because suddenly I was seeing my roots, my spiritual roots, through a very different lens. And that moved me very deeply. So I always had a very close relationship with Brahma Baba and a very close connection. I think I stayed in Gyan because I saw his picture, basically. As soon as Sr Gayatri showed us his picture, I said yes.
This is me.
I said yes. This is someone I have unfinished business with, so I have to say yes to him. But I just want to come back to that. And maybe if Judy is well enough, I would like to invite her to come and take us through something we did for the US with a history with video. If you have time, because it's so fascinating, it's amazing. Our history, our spiritual roots,
So
and how deep it goes.
when we're looking at what Baba's saying in the Murli, then we have to try to conjure up examples of that. And we do have examples of it, even if we were not there, but that they are around. I mean, I was very touched by that, it's in PDF format, but you can get the book called Is This Justice? The whole story of the court cases. It was very, very, and how people, so the reports from journalists who went there and what they witnessed in the Om Mandali and what they reported back to the court. Well, I went there and everything seemed so nice. These young kids so nice and so royal and so correct. So what's wrong? You know?
And there is a journalist right now who's doing a history on the social revolution of the Om Mandali in the province of Sindh. And it wasn't something ordinary, he said. Baba said to them, imagine India, undivided India at that time, wear frocks, wear Bermuda shorts, leave your hair loose. And all of that was against traditions. And he said that created a revolution. He said he even gave them the name of brothers. Prakash, Ratan, these are all brothers' names. And he said the old Mandali created a revolution, and he is doing it as a historical study. Tamazin, I think, is with him on it, but he is Pakistani, he's Sindhi, I think, but Muslim, Jafar, and he is doing it, and Judy is helping him too. She's like editing his work. But when that I feel, leaving Sindh, that the revelation of the history of Baba will come from Pakistan.
Yeah,
It will come
makes
from
sense.
that, yeah.
That's the beginning and the end coming together.
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
announcements. Thanks. That was very enjoyable. Everyone went back to the early days of the Yagya.
Thank you so much. That was really precious, both of you. Thanks, Gayatri. And what she suggested will happen. We'll give time for that storytelling that Judy could probably tell us. So maybe now we can wind up, Ken, with a moment of remembrance with you, and we have to set the stage. And no, it's just Mohini Didi is coming now. She's going to offer book, she's going to give a class, and then we will honor Mohini Didi here, and then we go for our brunch.
Just a quick show of hands if anyone leaving today. I know some of the Sevadaris are, but I don't think any Sevadaris, right? A couple of them? Nobody else is leaving. Okay. All right, just to let you know that there'll be a little collection of items, household kind of items downstairs by the washrooms, as we usually have available for you to browse around and pick up takeaways. So that's downstairs on the other side by the history hall.
Okay. I suggest also that paragraph where Baba's talking about not natural soul consciousness is about 15, 20 lines. Everyone can really study that further, that part.
Good morning. So from the Transport Department, which is headed by Sister Dorothy, we hope that all those who use that department was happy with the services provided. We want to remind you or share with you one of the policies we had, that people should only be picked up during daylight hours, let's say from 6 a.m. to about 6 p.m. This time we had one or two late arrivals. I suppose it is not, cannot be avoided. And so we tried to accommodate the late arrivals, but we got some complaints about what the ripple effect of that was. So we would have to stick to the policy that if you come in at late hours, that you stay in the airport until our pickup time, which would be around 6 a.m. And then for those of you, we have the list up for everyone to check. So if your name is not on that list, it means you are making your own way, I suppose. You're staying here. Or if you might have already told Suja your travel arrangement, that's great. But just check the list so that everything is well prepared to take you where you want to go. Om Shanti.
So just have a meditate a bit. Remember Baba.